So we're taking the tour.
We're taking the tour of the Artist Boats Coastal Heritage Preserve.
Cool.
And kind of big idea always is to have inspiring and educational coastal experiences for everyone that are unique and fun. So this is our Coastal Heritage Preserve. These are coastal prairie. We have a lot of coastal prairie. Well, a lot. We have 605 acres total. We have coastal prairie, saltwater marshes, freshwater marshes. But the coastal prairie is the most endangered habitat in North America. It used to go from Natchez, Louisiana, all the way to Corpus Christi and 100 miles inland. So almost everyone's house in Houston is on a coastal prairie.
Wow.
The coastal prairie, because on the tops of the ancient dunes, it's where the prairie would go. So where we are now used to be like the high spot, and then the beach was in the low spot. You know, it just keeps moving back, back, back. And by ancient, I'm not meaning too ancient, because the island's only 5,000 years old.
Only 5,000 years old.
Only 5,000 years old.
I remember back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. So, and it's kind of crazy.
Wow.
So anyway, and you can see, there goes an eastern meadowlark. But what I love about this place and the marsh is if you kind of just relax and open your eyes up. How embarrassing. See how there are bands of color?
I do see them.
So there's like a really nice brilliant green, then a yellow green, then a brown, then another brilliant green. Well, that's all different plant communities. In a 3-inch elevation on the island change, our biggest elevation change is naturally from 0 to 8 feet. But 3 inches can change the plant community. So as we ran, now I apologize that I didn't bring my binoculars, because now we're in the full marsh. You can see it out here. There goes another eastern meadowlark. And then you see all those little black dots out there in the water? Those are all shorebirds who are migrating. And they're coming from here. I mean, not. Those shorebirds are headed to the Arctic tundra, to Canada. That some of them may have come from South America.
Wow.
So they have what we would call a pretty extreme lifestyle, in that, like our neotropic migrants, the little warblers, all the bright color birds, they come, they fly down to the Yucatan, they fly back up, and they disperse across our eastern woodlands, forest, right? The shorebirds may nest on the Arctic tundra. A lot of them have black bellies, so that when the angle of the sun hits the eggs, it reflects it and doesn't cook their eggs. And then they go all the way back here to the coast and have a giant meal for however long, every fall. And they go all the way back down, some as far as South America. And then they hang out there. And they are not nesting there. And then they come all the way back across South America, North America, all the way back up to the far reaches of Alaska.
Wow.
And so, you know, when you save this place, you hadn't finished your work yet.
Yeah.
Because you have to save up there, you have to save down there. And so conservation is a global effort. Here comes a willet. They're here year-round, but we have western willets at one time of the year, and now we have eastern willets. They look a little bit different.
So by saving birds that are here, you're also saving birds from other places in the world, because they're passing through, right? I mean,
Right, their place is the world.
Exactly.
The whole world.
That's the whole point.
So we can't really drive the mule out there, Eddie, but if you want to walk out there, we can.
Take a little, just walk a little bit. What got you interested? I mean, I know you when you were going to school, you know, but I mean, that's one thing to go to school to get into, you know, conservationism and helping out the environment, but then there's another thing to do your own thing and create a whole organization. I mean, what inspired you to go that far?
That's question. So see the bird out there that's dancing around and waving its wings? A taller heron, that's a reddish egret. They're very endangered. And you can only find them in saltwater marshes. And they're moving their shadows around to confuse the fish. But back to your question, you know, I grew up in the Keys and my dad was a shark biologist, and he developed the technology to keep sharks alive in captivity, and him and my mom, they ship sharks all over the world. And he designed aquariums, and they were very passionate always that back then people thought if we gave the public more access to wildlife that people would save wildlife. Well, that's just a second. If you look down here, I don't know if it was killed or not, but if you get real close, look how delicate these little feathers are. Now I'm going to assume it was probably an eastern meadowlark, but I'm not for sure, just because they have bright yellow feathers on their chest and a black V. But anyway, this, you know, is totally saltwater habitat with these little...
Is that waste? Somebody was that like took a dump and that's what's left over?
Took a dump.
Somebody eat a bird and...
Oh, maybe. I just think it's kind of like an abstract painting. Like, the thing about our island and the Gulf Coast of Texas, you know, it's super flat here, right? So if you walk through here, you might think this is nothing. Right? It's little. There's no giant cypress, no giant redwoods, there's no cliffs.
That's what I was thinking earlier.
Ecosystem. It's
right.
Little, and you have to take time to see. And this is just so pretty with all those little white and yellow flowers with the green.
Or but I just grass I don't have to cut, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to. We do mow the prairie to try to get it back to its former state, but
I'm just saying people in general, they just see green stuff as like their lawn, you know, and they don't really think about it as being a whole world of other plants and the story behind it, you know, which that's what's cool. I don't have a lot of knowledge of it, you know. I've lived here since 91, you know what I'm saying? And that's maybe the first time I've heard the explanation, you know, between coming from the sea to the bay.
Well, so my dad and my mom, we grew up on the edge of paradise, snorkeling. Scientists came from all over the world. Our neighbor was the Dolphin Research Center, so I grew up with a little bit of very passionate people about the ocean, and I grew up in a beautiful place. And so I always have loved beauty, and I've always loved nature, and I grew up with people who the most important value is how we leave things and how we take care of things. And certainly I'm not powerful enough to save all the land on the Gulf Coast or all the species in the ocean, but together we are powerful enough to change the world. And this place, it took $8 million in 8 years to save 604 acres, and all the time I'm told, oh, people turn down our grant application. They're like, the land is so expensive. And I'm like, but it's compact and important, and we're 30 minutes from the 4th most populated city in the U.S. Everybody's headed here to get their feet wet. They all want their second home, but people can't have everything. Once this is covered up, nobody will want to be here. People come here because this is here. Even if they don't understand it, they understand, like, that horizon line, that vastness, that openness. Everybody responds to that feeling of nothing in my view. There's an osprey on the pole over there. It's kind of far away. So anyway, one day there'll probably be a boardwalk here, and you'll come and you'll see like a class group of students learning in a much better way than I could describe the transition zones and what is a mudflat, what is an algal mat, why should you care, what's happening here. I mean, it's a great place to learn about science. It's also a great place to learn about beauty and how to see. that's another great thing that my dad and my mom did for us, is they were always showing us how to see things. Like, I go to another country and I'm with the guide and I'm finding as many things as they are. I don't know what they are, you know, because I'm not from there, but then the guide will say, well, my gosh, how'd you learn how to find all this stuff? And I'm like, how'd you learn? It takes time to learn how to see. You have to relax. I mean, you really have to relax to see. If you're worried about something, you don't see anything. I love the way, if you're relaxed, that the natural world just will reveal itself to you. Like when we do the kayak adventures with the kids and they start making their watercolors of the marsh, they get real quiet, everything gets real quiet, and then that great blue heron just slides right in, a great egret, a snowy egret, the blue crabs get closer, you can see them in the water. All of a sudden the kids see all these things that they didn't see because they were quiet and things come closer. So, you know, we don't have a lot of time anymore to sit and, I call revel in what is the world, because the world is not our home, the world is not the mall, the world is not our iPads, it's not Facebook. And I love Facebook because I'm a social butterfly, but you know, this is the real deal. And you know, people come to the Texas coast and they'll say, well, you know, it's so flat, it's so boring. Well, you're kind of in a hurry if you say that. You got to slow down. You hear that tat, 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 tat? That's a clapper rail. Nice.
Well, you know, and that's what I found in myself, you know, like, because it's all about go, go, go to get your stuff done. And then I found that I was uncomfortable in moments of quietness, you know, like if I didn't have some kind of stimulus in my mind, if I'm not looking at something, if I wasn't listening to something, it felt weird, you know, and I was like, whoa, you know.
Well, this is go, go, go. I mean, just to get that little mule.
No, it isn't.
Cart somebody around. We used to walk across the place. Now the mule's kind of loud, but it makes it easier to take you out here quickly and to mow and to take care of things. But you know, I'm always under the gun. Like I have a grant due by Monday for $20,000 that we can use for match for another land acquisition. You know, there's always stuff going on.
So you got help from the federal government. Naturally, you're a nonprofit, right?
We're a nonprofit, and we get mostly our money for conservation has come through state and federal grants targeted for conservation. And then we got a grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation Gulf Environmental Benefit Fund, which was some oil spill money, fines that were paid to that, and now there's a $20 billion set to buy more land. But we have to find a way to tell this story that it's not cheaper to buy land on the mainland, because when this is gone, that's an expensive proposition.
To get it while it's overtaken, basically.
Yeah, we have a limited window because development pressure on all islands is excessive, because everybody wants a second home and to get their feet wet and to relax and hear and see this. Once all your homes are here, this is not this.
It's funny.
Here goes two brown pelicans.
How are you getting the word out? I mean, how did you get getting people involved in order to get this far?
Oh, well, I have built, and the state and federal agencies that manage natural resources have built strong relationships to do projects like this on the island. We advocate and try to tell as many elected officials and appointed officials about this, so that when they're reviewing and seeing things, maybe they remember us.
So you work with other groups as well?
Well, our primary partners have been U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Coastal Program, the Texas General Land Office, Coastal Impact Assistance Program for projects like this in the oil and gas states, and then the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department has submitted 2 grants for $1 million to sub-award to us for land. Their grant officer, Sherry O'Brien, lives on the island. And then the National Fish and Wildlife Fund, Gulf Environmental Benefit Fund, we were asked to apply, and we don't know who recommended us, but Ted Hollingsworth, known a long time through many, many other projects, and he submitted it. And so, you know, it does take champions, and then, you know, these people managing these grant programs, they have limited resources, right? And so I'm sure it's so hard for them to decide what is the best use of the funding. So, you know, that's one signal. It's a very valuable project. This was valuable to save this Bay Tract, which is 356 acres. Now we moved across the road and are headed towards the beach and the next development over, Anchor Bay. He's a willing seller. And we can put together about 1,400 acres. But it's probably another $18 million, which just sounds crazy, but we already got 8, and we just got another $1 million notice. So,
heck yeah.
You know, but that's on top of that. Like, to finish the Marquette land might be 15 million, Anchor Bay, we don't know how much. So, you know, it's just cobbling. We're just going from the west to the east and over. We just try to get the next section. And
how have you utilized, you know, KPFT? I've heard, you know, representatives on there. How have you incorporated a community radio, you know, to help with your mission? And
well, we run ads on the public radio about our kayak adventures. We've been interviewed several times by different people, and then there's another public radio. I don't think it's KPFT.
I don't know, maybe Alvin or...
No, well, who has Ecology?
I think it's KPFT.
Okay, we've been on that many times.
Yeah, I've heard.
Pat Greer.
Yeah, I believe it's KPFT.
And then, you know, I listen to public radio because sometimes you feel all alone. Then you listen to Democracy Now! Or some other show, and you realize there's some other person out there that is just as crazy as you are about some other cause, and they're working hard and trying to figure it out. And, you know, people ask, well, how did you wind up doing this? I just was taught, like, you have to leave everything better than you found it, and you have to save the, you know, this is a home. Like, there are real beings here that are all individuals. Every meadowlark is its own meadowlark. They have a right to have a home. Every reddish egret, in the Gulf, the sperm whales. I mean, we can't have everything, but, you know, I just started, do one thing, see a need, ask for help, or ask, do you want to do it? Then if somebody tells me no, then I'm like, well, I guess I got to do it by myself, you know, like combining art and science to teach kids on kayaks.
That's awesome.
I can't tell you how many people I offered that idea to that I worked for. And they're like, oh, that's crazy. Nobody's interested in art and science like that. 50,000 children later.
But let me ask you, were there times that you just said, yeah, I am crazy. This people are right. I mean, what am I thinking? You know, this is silly.
All the time I say you're crazy, and then.
But during those times, what? I mean, I know you had a great influence growing up, but I mean, was there people, or was there? I mean, what is there?
Well, I mean, I've had lots of help. I have great employees. Artist Boat has great board members. I'm not a trained manager. I'm not a nonprofit manager. I got a degree in fine arts and drawing from Southern Methodist University, and then I got a degree in marine biology, a bachelor's of science from A&M Galveston. I have 2 bachelors that require more hours than a normal degree, and I excelled at those. But I don't make any art, and I certainly don't do any science. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how to raise funds so that more of it can happen for the common person, because, you know, one, people are like, oh, it's so great, the kids, you're teaching the kids, they're going to change the world. I'm here to tell you, Eddie, the world is not going to change because of the kids we educated. The world is going to change because grown-ups right now do the right thing. We don't have time to wait for kids to grow up and do the right thing. We've been waiting 100 years in the conservation community for kids to grow up and do the right thing. Now, I was a kid and I grew up and I'm doing the right thing. But imagine if all the adults back then were doing the right thing. That my dad wasn't the only one with my mom in the Florida Keys teaching people about sharks. Now, he had lots of help. He had all those brand new aquariums around the world that could have saltwater aquariums for the first time. And you could go as a kid and see sharks. But are there more sharks today than in the 60s?
Much less.
No. So I always say we have to teach people K through gray. And when you think about the
K through gray,
and when you think about the learning experience, we spend our whole lives learning. That little tiny time that we spend in school is nothing compared to the rest of our lives. So lifelong learning is vitally important, but also somehow we have to get people to stop passing the buck onto the next generation. It's not right, it's not helpful, and it's detrimental now to our planet, our globe. I mean, you watch NPR, listen to NPR, or KPFT, you watch the public TV station. You know, this guy last week, I watched his show about, he ate fish for a year. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he researched where all the fish came from, went to all these places, like, should you eat farm-raised fish? Should you eat wild fish? Should you eat tuna? I mean, just to eat fish and be correct, right? What am I doing to the planet when I eat this fish? It's not simple. And there's less fish than ever. Like, the biggest fishery on earth is in Peru. It's all little anchovies. Those anchovies are ground up and turned into meal to feed the farm-raised salmon. The anchovy fisheries in Peru provides 30% of the food for all farm-raised salmon across the world.
Wow.
And I forget, they catch like 2.5 tons per drag of their net. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So, I mean, this is small compared to, like, if I was trying to solve the fisheries problem on Earth.
And that's the thing, you know, you've been, as I've been Mr. Workaholic, trying to make this money to accomplish my dreams and the things I want to do, you know what I'm saying? I've been watching you and listening to things you've been doing on KPFT, you know what I'm saying? And getting people that have worked for me involved with you, you know, and really happy about it, you know what I'm saying? And it just seems it shouldn't be so difficult for us in this busy life to get involved with those things, you know, and I feel that right now technology is at the time where it can really help. Instead, we're using it for other things. You know, if you can swipe left or swipe right to get laid, I mean, you should be able to swipe left or swipe right to help your community, help the environment. You know what I'm saying? It needs to be on the fingertips, because it is hard, you know, for us to work in the small windows of opportunity to get to you, to get to the station, to get to all these things, because it's not really at the fingertips, you know, unless you're like someone like you that had really good upbringing, you know what I'm saying, with inspiration, and then they took that dedication, you know what I'm saying, and took that leap of faith to go forward and do this. I think there's a lot of people trapped that can do so much more that have just a little bridge that we need to help.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Gap that we need to bridge.
I mean, I work hard. I work 60 hours a week. I'm in bad shape physically, and I certainly don't get to paddle with all the school kids or teach people about the birds. Mostly I give a little tour here and there to somebody like you who wants to help tell the story. You know, I'm not Amy Goodman. I don't have a platform for millions of people to hear about something really important. And that's so important that we have a variety of media and ways to access information. But, you know, there's not one thing special about me. Not one thing special about me. I studied hard. I work hard. I keep moving. I work like everything depends on me, and I pray like everything depends on the universe. I mean, I've walked out here and placed an angel on every post to protect it from any potential seller and scare them off. I mean, that's like witchcraft or maybe Christianity. I don't know. But but I mean
every help you can get from
it, you know, and
the universe to the spirit to whoever. You know,
and
that's something else.
You know, I've asked other organizations to do it before we did it. Nobody wanted to. So.
But then after you took the lead, then some of those come back and help? Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, we still have more to save. And, like, I'm trying to think, gosh, what could that do? Would 2 million people give $10? Because that'd be $20 million. We could be done in a year, buy the rest of the land, and start planning our environmental education center. But
That's
why?
half the people in Houston.
Why would they give $10? Like, how would we get half the people in Houston to give $10? Because we're not going to get a $20 million grant to finish buying all the land at one time. There's no grants that big, you know. Would somebody just give $20 million? You know, I don't know. But we got to get started in a bigger way. Like, that's the other thing. I'm always trying to figure out how. So used to, when Artist Boat started, I took, with Tina Proctor, 25 kids at a time. We did a workshop and then a kayak adventure. I was there for them. Well, we had one fleet of kayaks. Then I'm like, gosh, if we had 2 more people and 2 fleets of kayaks, that's 50 kids a day. Now we have 3 fleets of kayaks. I have 6 educators. I'm like, God, you know, there's 1.1 million students. Like, we really need to take about probably 150,000 7th graders kayaking every year. It took us all 13 years to serve 100,000 people, right?
13 years you served 100,000 people.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Seems like a lot, right?
When you break it down, it's nothing.
It's nothing, because there's millions of people. There's 7 million people in our region, and 1.1 million of them are students. I thought, well, gosh, how could we give everybody a free kayak adventure? If everybody could just go, right, in the next 2 years, they would all do better. So I'm always thinking, like, people don't do better because they're mean or stupid. People don't do better because they don't know. They've never experienced it. Nobody showed them.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm going to show you the rest of the preserve.
That's awesome.
Are you buckled in?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Kristen will get me.
Yes. She lose me along the way.
She what?
If you lose me along the way.
Oh, gosh. Then I'd be in a heap of trouble.
Yeah, you know, that's, to me, like I was saying, with the technology we have, you know, I think that there could be a lot more working together, you know, and that's what I'm really trying to, I want to set up like an interface for the regular person like me to interact with you, people like you, and community radio, you know, so that way the smallest window they have, they can reach for, they can grab something, you know. And I think
people want to be connected, right? We connect to Facebook, we connect to Twitter. We want to connect to each other. We want to learn from each other. We want to argue with each other. You know, we want a dialogue. We just don't know how to have a dialogue with this anymore.
Well, the thing I think partly is because we had this monetized society, you know, where, you know, even the phrases of and speech are like, I'm not buying it, I can't afford it, you know. People are looking at information like whether they can afford it or not, and when it's information that they need, you know, kind of like, you know, people that controlled your water used to not be privatized, you know what I'm saying, and so that you could always have confidence that they were looking out for your best interests, not to get your money.
Right.
But now, even everybody's looking at everything like a product, you know, like information is a product, you know, it's like this is vital information that they need. How can we make them recognize that it's vital, and not that they don't have, and not whether they have time or not to buy it, you know, that they need to invest, you know. That's what I want to figure out. Why has it been so hard for me to invest into this source of finding out about you and all the good things, educating myself, you know?
I mean, people do have to prioritize things, right? It's all here. You might have to work harder than you need to get information. Or like, there goes Kristen mowing. I wish we had horns. Doesn't she look good?
She looks happy, man. Looks a lot happier than whenever she worked for me.
She does?
Well, I know she wanted this gig really bad, you know, coming from Moody Gardens.
She's so hardworking.
And it was
smart.
Yeah, I knew I wouldn't recommend just anybody. And I just felt it would be a good match for you guys.
Yeah, but this was built to hold fresh water by the rancher, so it fills up and then goes away. I want to figure out how to keep it full of fresh water because it's so good for wildlife to have fresh water. We have coyotes and great horned owls, rattlesnakes.
water moccasins.
Oh, I'm sure we have water moccasins. Anyway, if you wanted to come out here and mow, she could teach you how to mow. You just pick a day of the week and the time. She'll give you your own little route. And you can just ride the mule and look around.
I'm definitely interested to help out. Part of my thing is I want to have information, you know, handy as I go around these 20 days, you know, to tell people about you.
Oh, I didn't bring any brochures.
Well, I'll go by. I'm not leaving until next week on Monday,
okay.
but I want to go by and,